think I did it.
Yeah, you will.
Alright. Alright, welcome everyone to the what was supposed to be Why Evolution is True and You Should Believe It Too talk. But I watched the debate and I basically completely revamped it in the last 2 days. So ignore any minor grammatical errors. I'm tired. I was tired when I made it, but I think it's alright. It's now Why Evolution is True and Creation is Ludicrous by your resident squishy science guy, Bob, or Mark, depending on how you like. Anyway, so start with the easy part first, evolution. What is it? Well, evolution is the theory of evolution. Well, to be more precise, it's the theory of evolution by natural selection, and it was first coined by Charles Darwin back in the 1800s, who was a pretty cool dude. I have tons of fun stories about Darwin, but that's later. Now, the theory of evolution by natural selection is simply this, and only this. It is the change of inherited characteristics of biological populations over successive generations. Notice it doesn't talk about where life came from, it doesn't talk about what our purpose is, it doesn't talk about any kind of divine creator, and it doesn't talk about a specific individual organism. It's only populations that evolve. Only. And they can only be traits that are genetically inherited. So, I mean, you can be a huge, big bodybuilder all you want, but that doesn't mean your kid's going to pass that on. Well, sort of with epigenetics, but that's way later. One sticking point with this theory, though, is the word itself, theory. That people will say things like, oh, evolution is only a theory, it's just a theory, blah, blah, blah. They don't know what the actual definition of a theory is. A scientific theory, to be precise, and it has a very precise definition, which I copy-pasted off of Wikipedia. A scientific theory is a well-substantiated explanation of some aspect of the natural world, based on a knowledge that has been repeatedly observed, repeatedly confirmed through observation and experimentation. One thing that was left out is the ability to make predictions about the natural world as well. So, you get things like evolutionary theory, germ theory of disease, the atomic theory, and cell theory, all very important theories that we use in our, at least most of us use, or at least I do, in our day-to-day life. I know some of you probably don't use evolutionary theory and cell theory a whole lot, but atomic theory and germ theory of disease are really important. So, now that we know what a theory is, we kind of want to talk about what isn't a theory. Things like why your car won't start. That's at best a hypothesis. People could say, oh, my car won't start, it's making a chunk of sound. And like, oh, I have a theory. No, slap them in the face. What team will win this football game? And if you had said, I have a theory that Seattle is going to win the Super Bowl, you were wrong on 2 counts. That's not a theory, that's an educated guess, and Seattle completely smoked Denver. I think I said that right, whatever. That Batman can beat Superman in a fight. That's a fact. But no, that's not a theory. That you can't make predictions, you can't experimentally confirm it, can't do anything like that. And creationism, the other half of this talk. That's BS. Just pure unadulterated, pure zoo-grade crap. But, you know, we'll get more into that a little bit later. That, everyone doesn't think the same thing, though. That theories, you know, they have mountains of evidence, researchers working around the clock to find more data to support it, makes observation, makes predictions. Hell, if you've had a flu shot in the last ever, you've had some kind of medicine involving the theory of evolution. It's also important for antibiotics and things like that. But that doesn't really help, though, because from a survey of 32 industrialized countries basing their belief of evolution, if you were here a couple weeks ago for Rob's talk about religious fundamentalism and, you know, will society collapse with religion, that you might recognize some of these numbers. Now, the countries that believe in evolution more than anyone else are countries up here like Iceland, Denmark, Sweden, France, Japan, UK, and all the way, excuse me, what is wrong? Okay, and all the way down near the bottom is the United States. 31st, above only Turkey, a Islam fundamentalist country which has its own reasons for denying evolution. But unfortunately, that 40% has an asterisk, and it makes me sad. a 2011 Gallup poll asked the following question to a bunch of Americans. Which of the following do you believe about how humans came to be? There is human beings evolved from earlier species, aka evolution by natural selection, aka what every scientist worth his salt will believe in. Human beings were created by a God in the last 10,000 years, it's creationism, aka BS, trying to keep it clean a little bit. Or human beings evolved, but that evolution was guided by God, that's intelligent design. And personally I think that's even more stupid than creationism, because at least creationism, they have something to be backed up against, you know. But intelligent design, that they can just go all over the place, you don't know what they're thinking, so I don't trust them. But anyway, the responses are pretty clear down here. 40% of the population says we were created directly by God in our modern forms less than 10,000 years ago. We'll get to why that's kind of stupid later. Evolution was guided by God, 38%. And don't know, unsure. I mean, I don't know why you could be unsure about that. But those of you who can do basic math in your head real quick, you know that leaves a measly 16% from believing that humans evolved from earlier species. So, if you believe that human beings came from earlier species via evolution, congratulations, you are part of the 16%. It's not as great as the 100%, but it's close. Or the 1% is close. But, anyway, I know Rob talked about this a little bit, I'm going to touch on it a little bit. It's kind of a comparison between states that do accept evolution, and, well, by accepting evolution you would see that there's more acceptance, there's less acceptance of religion, and kind of compare the states as far as, you know, knowledge goes. I used a mathematics chart because I figured that's a pretty good baseline. And right now this is all the math scores in the U.S. The green states are the states that did well, and the black states are the states that did bad, the worst. So you can sort of compare these two states, the most religious ones being not that button down here, this Bible Belt, sort of, you know, you have states like South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi,
Texas did well.
You know, Louisiana, Arkansas, things like that. And you'll see that's a pretty strong correlation with the Bible Belt, which is the highest religiosity. And you can see the inverse too, up in up in the New England states, you know, higher than nation in both grades 4 and 8 math levels, also have the least religiosity. So you see a pretty strong correlation there. That
Michigan's an outlier.
Yeah, Michigan's an outlier, and so too is Ohio. Michigan and Ohio are both kind of in the middle, but we're opposites. We're above average. Michigan's below average in both.
They got Detroit.
So yeah. But, you know, Rob touches about this more. If you want to learn more, watch our last talk. What's the exact title, Rob?
Wasn't recorded.
Oh, it wasn't? Oh, never mind. But moving on, that you can tell that pretty much that, yeah, by these kind of these comparisons between states that have high religiosity and lowered, lower school grades and obviously less scientists coming out of them as well. Now you figure that, putting more evolution and less religion in schools would be, a good thing. Unfortunately, that's not the case either. This is a headline after the recent Dover case that there was a school that was taken to court over one of the teachers there trying to teach intelligent design as science, and the judge ruled against intelligent design. It's similar to the Scopes monkey trial back in the early 1900s. If you want to know more about that, I recommend watching the movie Inherits the Wind, which is a movie based off the court case, and it's pretty close to actually what happened. So we know that creation is nonsense, but these people who believe in it, they think that it should be taught at school. They think it has equal footing on the scientific podium along with evolution, which is just lunacy. And we'll see why it's specifically lunacy. Right, Sue. But there's a quote. I know I don't like to do the whole appeal to authority, but I'm using this not to appeal to authority, but kind of get an idea of how true evolution is. It's a quote from Dr. Jerry Coyne from the University of Chicago regarding evolution. It is a fact that is It is an assertion for which there is so much evidence, it would be perverse to deny it. It has attained facthood. There are multiple lines of evidence to support it, and no evidence to refute it. You are either perverse, or you are a moron, or you do not understand the nature of evidence, or you are so blinded by your religion that you reject all evidence. That he's talking about evolution, and the fact that there has been no evidence to refute it at all. The fossil record goes exactly the way we predict it to be. That organisms and experimentations go exactly the way we expect them to, especially a recent experiment where E. coli bacteria evolved to digest citrates, which we'll see that a little bit, that you might have seen during the debate. One of the professors, one of the microbiologists talked against it. And he's a ding-dong because he actually was just lying through his teeth. I can tell, because I'm actually a biologist too. So, that geologic layers, the Earth, the way the Earth plates move, the tectonic plates, everything says evolution is a fact. I don't understand why people actually believe creationism besides, being blinded by faith. But if you've seen the debate, you understand how that can happen. But if I remember my slides right, I'm going to talk a little bit about creationism. Or, actually no, I lied. That this is a Google search, and the results of that Google search. Because if those of you who know how a Google search engine works, you can type in anything you want, put the minus sign in and type another word, and it will omit the word with the minus sign from all results. I typed in evidence against evolution minus Bible. So that means for every site that claimed to have evidence against evolution, that if it used the word Bible ever anywhere in the actual text, it was removed. I got no results about evolution. There was a couple things arguing against abiogenesis, but that's not evolution, so we're not going to get to that until later. And every other result was things like top 5 misconceptions about evolution, top 8 misconceptions about evolution, top 13 misconceptions about evolution, top 20 misconceptions about evolution. Those were all the results. Or quotes like this one before, there is no evidence against evolution. So, tell that the scientific consensus is pretty clear. But, of course, since it's America, we have to give everyone a fair shot. So right now, we're going to talk about Ken Ham, TM, Brand creationism. Ken Ham Brand creationism. It's almost like goddamn brand, but different. Anyway, this creationism is the one specifically touted by Ken Ham in the last debate. It is what the Bible literally says word for word, and I tested it with math. But a little backstory on it. It was developed in the 18th century by, religious fundamentalists, to kind of decide how old the world is. We didn't know a whole lot then, didn't know about, radiologic dating, didn't know about geologic strata, we didn't know a whole lot. So they figured, okay, let's figure out how old the Earth is. They did numbers and said, okay, the Earth is how many years old. And actually these people were mentioned in some of Darwin's private writings to his contemporaries, kind of laughing them off, thinking that they're ridiculous, that they're being silly. But, of course they are silly, but they're still around. That they began their association with the Christian fundamentalist churches back in 1929. This kind of came to a head with the Scopes monkey trial case. Again, Inherit the Wind, watch it, get it, now. Well, not now, later. And their core beliefs are as follows, that they believe the earth was created by God directly in the last 10,000 years or so. Some say 6,000, some say 4. All we can say for sure is that they think that the oldest the earth could possibly be is 10,000 years old. Which literally everything in science says no. That the earth, that they found this number by adding up biblical genealogies. If you've read the Bible, which you all should have, Paul beget Sam, beget Joseph, beget so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. Things like that. They added up all their ages with basic addition and came up with a number. And one thing they believe, a couple things they believe is that the earth and universe was created with the appearance of age. But this kind of goes into last Tuesdayism, where, well, what's to say that the earth and universe wasn't created last Tuesday with the appearance of age? You can't prove it. It's not proven by science. It's because you can't prove it or disprove it. So it's unscientifically valid. It's not scientifically valid in any way. And then one of the huge things that comes up when creationists speak, you saw it with Ken Ham a lot about it, is Noah's flood. The big flood. It's really silly. I would say ludicrous, in fact. And you'd have to be perverse to think that's actually how the earth came to be. So, we're going to talk about that a bit. Oh, before that, since the earth was created, 10,000 years ago, here's some things that we missed. Things like spears, 400,000 years ago. Bows and arrows, 64 to 60,000 years ago. Yeah, Chris?
What happens if God or whoever's in the clouds up there just put down a whole bunch of chests or something? You play Dungeons and Dragons or something, you just put them down there and bam, voila, just open up the chest and you can have spears.
And God's a really bad DM. Fertility symbols, 28,000 years ago.
God just put that there to fuck with us.
Figuratively, of course. And 16,000 years ago, pottery, which if anybody's played the Sid Meier's Civilization series, that's one of the first technologies you want to research. But anyway, let's say, okay, the earth was created as it's written in the Bible, and we get to the flood. It's hugely important to creationists. For those of you who don't know, as it is written in the Bible, I actually looked this up and I read the Bible about this. I wanted to be sure I was right. God says to Noah, hey, shit's about to go down. This earth thing, it's not really working out. It's not me, it's you. You guys suck. You're evil, except you're a cool dude. Everyone else sucks. So what I want you to do is take you and your 3 sons and all your wives, grant a total of 8 people, to go build an ark that is 300 cubits long by 50 cubits wide and 30 cubits tall. I converted those to feet, 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet tall. Converting that to actual floor space, you get a floor space of about 101,250 square foot with 15 feet of headroom in 3 levels. So, a fair bit of space. That's pretty much about the size of the student union, actually. So, you can kind of use that as a reference. I couldn't get exact measurements up here because the university wouldn't let me see the blueprints for whatever reason.
Did you really ask?
No.
Oh.
I tried to look them up. They're not public domain. So, anyway. Oh, and 1 window. Imagine the student union. The only ventilation was 1 2 by 3 cubit window.
What's
1.
a cubit?
A cubit is an old unit of measurement. It is roughly equivalent to 1.5 standard feet. So about a half meter or so, let's say. Or no, less than that. Never mind. So God says, okay, the animals, they're stupid animals. So I don't want to completely wipe out the earth and start from scratch because I'm lazy. So get 2 of every animal on earth of all of their kinds, and 7 of every clean animal. But for the sake of saying, let's say 2. I want to give this flood in the ark every possible advantage, and it doesn't help. And then, they get all the animals on the boat, and it begins to rain for 40 days and 40 nights.
Also known as 40 days.
Nah, that is what the Bible says. Which, honestly though, if you know anything about ancient Hebrew and numerographia, you would actually realize that it doesn't really mean literally 40 days and 40 nights. It actually just means a long-ass time, until the earth was good and drowned. Chris?
How is Noah able to replicate the different environments for so many different animals?
We'll get it. We'll actually get onto that a little bit.
Gotta use magic.
We'll get into that a little bit. But so it rains for 40 days and 40 nights, but we're being literal here, because that's what Ken Ham brand creationism is about, is being literal. Rains for 40 days and 40 nights, And the ark sails around the oceans for 150 days. But granted, there's no actual steerage on the ship. It doesn't really sail, it just kind of floats there like a cork. Which, if you've sat, been on the seas for a while, on any sort of raft or a floaty toy or anything, the seas aren't exactly smooth. So it was a rough ride. Anyway, the ark floats around for 150 days. God starts draining the water out. They land on a mountain. Gangplank lowers, and they all go back to life, to their lives and burning. So every animal goes back, except for the clean ones. They get burned as an animal sacrifice. Granted, there was almost a mass extinction. You may as well kill 2 or 3 more animals and species between friends. But anyway, so the Bible says that the earth was covered entirely in water, and 15 cubits above the highest point. And I wondered how much water that is, because it seems like a lot. So I did math. I really regret that. So we know that Mount Everest is 8,848 meters high above sea level, plus 15 cubits to cover it very, very well, because if God is anything, He is thorough. He wanted this earth to be good and drowned. That leaves us with 8,852.58 meters. I'm going to do rounding later, so it's not that scary. So we figure, how much water would we need to cover that up to there? Well, it's kind of pretty simple, actually. You just get the volume of a sphere from the center with the radius of the center of Earth to the end, to 15 cubits above Mount Everest, and subtract the volume of the sphere of Earth, the volume of Earth itself, and you get a number of how much the difference is, and that's the water you need. So here's some more numbers. The diameter of Earth is 12,756,800 meters. Half that to get the radius, and combine the radius of Earth plus Mount Everest plus 15 cubits, you get 6,387,252.9 meters. It's pretty big. Do some more math like I talked about. Volume of Earth plus Everest sphere minus volume of Earth. You get the water you need. Formula for the sphere right there. For those of you who don't know and can't read it, it is 4/3 pi r cubed. You get the volume. And you get these numbers for the volume of Earth plus Everest plus 15 cubit radius square, sphere, you get it right eventually, you get 1.092 times 10 to the 21st cubic meters.
Where'd all this water go?
We'll find out later. The volume of Earth itself is 1.087 times 10 to the 21st cubic meters. And when you look at numbers like that in scientific notation, you think, oh, that's not that different at all. That's probably not a whole hell of a lot of water. You were wrong. Converting it, it is 5 times 10 to the 18th cubic meters. To give you a more graphic representation, I converted that to gallons, which is a number, a large number. That is 1 sextillion, 320 quintillion, 860 quadrillion gallons. That the sextillion is a billion trillions. That is, if you had about maybe a fourth or a 1% of a penny for every gallon, you'd be able to pay off the entire world's debt at least 30 times over. That is a stupidly huge amount of water. I actually want to drill into your head how much water this is. That all of the water on Earth, and I mean all of the water, from oceans, lakes, rivers, aquifers, glaciers, everything, every drop of water on Earth combined, would it make 326 quintillion gallons. Notice there's a missing sextillion there. Well, to be more precisely, 994,000 quintillion gallons, but we can round up to a sextillion gallons of water. And this water is missing. Where is this water? That's 3 times more water than all of the water on the Earth. And we can't find it. Chris?
Maybe God took his garden spigot. That's like maybe another planet that has a lot of water, And
Like,
like
none of
just
them?
like it just like held the hose over there and like you know how you fill up a swimming pool or something? It just held that hose over there like
That'd take a long
and then he drained it back when we was done, you know.
That'd take a hell of a long time. But,
He is God.
anyway, I know, and there's some creationists' guesses about how this could be pulled off. You know, one thing they say is, oh, the water's still here. It's locked up in the ice caps. No, it's not. If literally all the polar ice melted, like right now, the sea levels would only increase by about 66 meters or 214 feet, if you like that. I mean, granted, that would ruin a lot of people's days. Something like half the Earth's population would be completely drowned, like all coastal cities and everything. But that still leaves well over 8,000 meters of missing water. And not to mention where it came from. So there's two guesses about it, equal and opposite in nature. Equal, opposite of where the water came from and where it went. Equal in that they're both complete lunacy. That one guess is that, okay, the Earth was encased in a giant layer of ice in the sky. Gravity says no. And not to mention, does gravity say no, a chunk of ice that size wouldn't float up there. Not to mention, no light could penetrate it. Okay, just a quick question. Who has seen a river go from frozen to thawed during the spring thaw cycles, or a lake or ocean or anything?
Never seen that.
I've seen it frozen like I've seen it.
Alright. For those of you who don't know about what it looks like, I'm going to give you a bit of a visual aid. I went to my local river in this last mini thaw we had, to see the river look like when it's flooded. I saw chunks of ice the size of Mini Coopers floating down the river. Imagine chunks of ice the size of states falling out of the sky from above the height of Mount Everest. Which I thought about it, that would, hurt a lot. So I actually looked up some physics on it.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I didn't actually write these numbers down, and I'm going to give you the before and after. If you had the 1/6,326,something billion gallons of water floating in the sky above Mount Everest and made it crash down onto Earth, that it would, because of the energy released, that if all the energy was converted to heat, it would raise the entire Earth's temperature to 1,800 degrees Kelvin, hot enough to melt pretty much every metal except tungsten. And everything would be dead. And the only thing that would survive intact would be things like crystallized quartz. So, that one's out. And then the water got blasted off into space because reasons.
Magic.
Pretty much. And the equal and opposite one is the water wasn't floating above the Earth, no. It was beneath the Earth's surface, and God made it shoot up out of the ground and come down as rain. Well, that could make sense if they didn't know that the entire Earth was filled with molten lava, or magma to be more precise. And still, that's an incredible amount of water, and where did it go? I don't buy it, so right now the flood's out. But I'm not done with this, no. We're going to talk about the Ark itself. Or, as I like to call this section, we're going to need a bigger boat.
Will it float?
A lot bigger. I don't know. I couldn't find a good actual representation of the wood, because all the Bible said was beaver wood. And what beaver wood is actually supposed to be, I have no idea. So no math on buoyancy. Hell, there's very little math. This is all biology stuff right now.
Magic wood.
Pretty much. Well, we know for sure, it has been confirmed that there are 1.9 million species on this earth. We know that for a fact. It is estimated that there is 5 ± 3 million living today. And that's generally accepted. But some estimates go as high as 30 million. Hell, some estimates go even as high as 50 million. Granted, most of them are beetles, but hey, an animal's an animal.
Didn't Bill Nye say 50,000?
50, that's the
He's a million?
50 million. That's the that's the high end of the estimation. It's
Okay.
like it's like 30 million insects, 10 million some fish, bacteria. So anyway, so he's giving the Ark a hard time. I'm gonna go easy on it. So to get the number of animals on the Ark, we just multiply the number of species. I'm gonna give the Ark a chance. So let's say the only species that are on the Ark are the ones we know about today. Multiply by 2, easy enough, you get 3.8 million animals.
Wouldn't there
Which-
be fewer?
What?
Wouldn't there be fewer because of evolution?
Well, we'll talk about that a little bit. So, go Chris.
I heard Kid Ham say something like, I don't know if it was in that debate, but I heard like creation say something that it's like there wasn't that many species because like there was only like there's just dog, and then that's it, and there's no like Chihuahuas, no German Shepherds, no,
No.
and then that decreases the number down. But in 6,000 years time span,
Well, that actually was talked about in the debate a bit. That Bill and I actually talked about this. That well, it might not have been the debate precisely, but Bill and I did mention it. And so, in the fact that in the time scale, to go from say 7,000 different, that's about the number of different families we have in the taxonomy. The whole to remember this right, kingdom, phylum, order. No, yeah, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species, I want to say. So if you go to the family level, that there's about 7,000 or so different families out there. But to get to 7,000 to 1.9 million different species, that you need to get something like, 40 or so new species every single day, which doesn't happen. Like there'd be like a list. I know this is kind of plagiarized from the debate, but you'd see in the newspaper next to scores, the daily weather, the number, and the new species discovered. Like hell, whenever we discover a new species today, it's huge news. It's like all 8 major science publications is, oh, we found a new animal, and it just blows people's minds about it.
Whoa.
So no, biology says that can't happen. Because we haven't seen 40 million species being, 40 species being evolved every day, and that hasn't been seen, so that's out. So, in kind of a real-world comparison, it feels kind of stupid because I forgot to look this up, the actual name of the zoo, I should say. But the largest zoo in the world, I want to say a zoo in Tennessee, but don't quote me on it, has 17,000 animals spread out over 130 acres of land, or 5,662,800 square feet, which is slightly more than the 100,000 plus feet of the Ark. A little bit. Only an order of like 50. Only like what, 50 times bigger. But 50 arks between friends. And in zoos like these really large ones, with this large number of animals, they get a lot of flack because these zoos are overcrowded. That's 17,000 animals over 130 acres. How about try almost 4 million on less than 1 acre, and that's what you get with the Ark. And not to mention that not only just the animals you have to worry about, you have to worry about the food storage for them. That according to the USDA, on average, that for the time period that would be on the Ark, about 190 days, I used 150 days, gotta give it a chance, that every animal for the entire duration of the trip will need 3 times its body mass in food. And that's just food. And it doesn't even say what kind of food the animal needs, The cows will need grass, koalas need only eucalyptus trees. Hummingbirds will need flowers, bees will need flowers as well, but they can't use the same flowers as the hummingbirds. Mosquitoes need blood, so do vampire bats. The carnivores, you gotta keep away from the herbivores, because I'm pretty sure the lions and tigers would be giving the gazelles some pretty fun looks. And especially in those type of close quarters, that you gotta have them, with zoos, you gotta, if you're storing an animal, you gotta have a recreation, toys, things to play on, habitats to replicate their actual environments, so they don't go stir crazy and try to murder everyone and each other. Ventilation, there's only one window. Illumination, what, are you gonna have torches on a frickin' ark? I don't think so. And not to mention, fresh water, salt water for the fish, because one thing that I didn't touch about with the water is, was it salt or fresh water? Well, if it's fresh water, it'll throw off the balance, the salinity balance of the oceans and murder everything in the oceans as well. It could be salt water, but then it would do the same exact thing for the freshwater fish and completely screw them. Not to mention that would leave every single lake and that would leave, after the water drains away, it would leave literally no water for you to drink. So that's equally out and unviable. And there's more too. It's just, all right, who here has pets? Awesome. You know how hard it is to raise a pet? You know, just one, you know, a single dog or a cat or 2 or 3 animals. You know how hard that is. I would have trouble raising maybe 10 animals by myself. Imagine having to raise 500,000 animals by yourself. I know creationists try to get around it, oh, they weren't adults, they were juveniles, because they're smaller. But that's even more insane. Anybody who's raised a kitten or a puppy can tell you that's even more work for you to do. And if they are so fragile and vulnerable that that most of them would almost certainly die. So there's all the animals on this little tiny boat. It's ludicrous, it's insanity that there's no way you can justify it. But let's say, for the sake of saying, that Noah pulls it off. That all the floodwaters come from somewhere and go away, doesn't wipe out everything, that wasn't supposed to be wiped out. All the animals, go on the boat, they have enough room, they're condensed down to the size of, atoms or something, or molecules. They have enough food and space and all that fun stuff. So anyway, water drains away, they land on the mountain, lower the gangplank, and see a full world full of death and disease everywhere. Because think about it, every living thing except for what got onto the ark is now dead, and has been dead and decaying in the water for 190 days, since the beginning of the flood till the waters are drained away. That would smell literally, it could be the worst thing you could possibly imagine. If anybody smelled rotten meat or any kind of decomposition, you know how bad it is. And not to mention that the soil would be completely stripped barren, that you see this in floodplains all the time, that when floods happen, it picks up a lot of soil, runs out onto floodplains and lowers the silt and the good topsoil down in the water. There is no floodplains for this. All the water is taking all the sediment and all the soil and all the nutrients away. You would pretty much have bedrock everywhere, that nothing could grow, and anything that wasn't covered in bedrock would be covered in this fetid sludge from all the dead and decaying animals. And not to mention that according to Ken Ham brand creationism, that this is precise, when the waters are drained away, this is precisely how the Grand Canyon was formed. The one Grand Canyon in a global flood. One. You'd figure we'd have a couple at least, one on every major continent, but no, just the one, which just so happens to look like it was carved out of millions of years of a river running through it or something. What are the odds of that, right? And, this is great. I actually have a video for this. That all the endemic species of Australia got back to where they came from. All the kangaroos, and the dingoes, and the tarantulas, and
Koalas.
or drop bears.
What?
Drop bears.
The bears.
Sorry. Anyway, they all get back to Australia, a journey of about 6,000 miles, without any of them dying on the way, and not spreading anywhere else. Across a land bridge that doesn't actually exist anymore, and there is no evidence of. But no, some people say, I kid you not, that these animals, they didn't walk the way. No, that's too plebeian. They climbed to the top of Mount Sinai, which is an active volcano, and they got launched like a frickin' cannon back to Australia. I don't need to tell you why that's lunacy, but I found a video that talks about it. So, I'm going to shut up for a little bit while it's playing.
Have provided and equipped so many individuals and so many churches with the ability to defend their faith. You guys have a creation museum with literally hundreds of thousands of people coming and learning the truth.
It's about 8 minutes long.
What are you guys doing?
5 years
That's kinda
since
him.
It's
the
kinda him.
Creation Museum has been open. It was opened in 2007. And so it's like
It's a great video.
we've had 1.7 million people, over 1.7 million people come through the Creation Museum.
Well, actually, it's a fairly special week for me too. You see, the Thunderfoot Channel might be a couple of years older than the Creation Museum, but it's also had a little bit more than 1.7 million visitors. Indeed, this month, the Thunderfoot Channel passed 50 million video views. And with
Let's see if I can
that,
escape
if
this.
you Why Do People Laugh at Creation? Part
Fucking
39.
stupid, man.
You know, one of the dilemmas of people who believe that the Bible is the truth,
Okay, I think
no matter what reality has to say on the matter.
The best evidence, you can look at all that science, the best evidence of Noah's flood is God's word. He has revealed to us the worldwide flood.
Is in Noah's flood, how on a planet whose entire surface has been underwater for about a year.
That there was a global flood at the time of Noah's day. And so all the life on the land was destroyed except those on Noah's Ark. And Noah's Ark landed in the Middle East and the animals and people got off the Ark.
That is, it killed off all of the trees, all of the plants, leaving the planet entirely dead. Do you manage to say, for instance, get all of the kangaroos and koalas back to Australia? That's almost halfway round the world, across this almost lifeless and therefore food-free landscape. I mean, just to put this all into perspective, if Noah had a decent airplane with all of the infrastructure to run it at his disposal, it would still take him about 10 hours just to fly to Australia to drop off the koala bears before coming back. Well, Conservapedia, that's the trustworthy encyclopedia, has an explanation for how these animals might have gotten this far, and that's that there are volcanoes in the Mount Ararat region that could have thrown small animals great distances. Specifically, it says, the post-Noachian flood volcano theory comes from the example of Krakatoa, which in 1883 erupted and destroyed most of the island, thus remaining lifeless for many years. Still, the same that was there before the eruption eventually came back. It's possible that volcanoes in the Mount Ararat region were able to transport the smaller animals over much greater distances than the animals could get by just walking. Now bear in mind what I just told you. If you were to fly to Australia in an airplane just below the speed of sound, it still takes you about 10 hours. So in this creationist model, to get the small fluffy animals to Australia, all the velocity must be given to the animal during a launch, and the rest of the 6,000-mile journey will be an unpowered, that is, a ballistic trajectory. Now there are three problems with this. The first is exploding volcanoes tend to kill everything. For instance, this is just what a half-atmosphere pressure wave will do to someone.
Blast injuries to exposed personnel, represented by this dummy, is usually severe over 3 psi. Here it was 6 psi.
And notice that the person here only travels a few feet, and this blast would have likely caused him serious injury or killed him. That is, a volcanic eruption that is capable of transporting small animals further than they could get by just walking is also likely to turn them inside out. Fluffy animals or not, they are not going to survive the launch. I mean, damn, the volcanic eruption they cite, Krakatoa, devastated and killed everything. It did not result in small fluffy Sumatran animals raining down in Singapore. The second problem is the ballistic trajectory that you would need to follow to get further than you can get by just walking, say for instance from the Middle East to Australia. And maybe the easiest way to put this into perspective is the V2 rocket. This was the first man-made machine to get into space, the first man-made object to take pictures of the Earth from space.
The huge projectile drops the Earth behind at the tremendous speed of 4,000 feet per second. The rotation of the rocket causes the planet to spin before the lens, and the camera photographs the Earth 65 miles straight down. The horizon, 720 miles away, and the curvature of the Earth are astonishingly apparent in this still picture from the film. An observer in the rocket could have seen San Diego, Salt Lake City, Kansas City, and San Antonio.
And it only had a range of a couple of 100 miles. And that really isn't in the league of being able to transport animals further than they could get by just walking. And it was about a minute-long burn, and then it stayed on this unpowered, that is, a ballistic trajectory. However, the ballistic trajectory that would take you from the Middle East to Australia will mean that you will spend about 1 hour in space. Now, I don't think I'm going out on too much of a limb when I say most of the Australian wildlife can't survive an hour without oxygen, let alone an hour in the vacuum of space. The third problem that you come to is the landing. Indeed, most of the V2s free-falling from space were supersonic on impact. Now, small fluffy animals, of course, have a lot more air resistance and so would hit the ground considerably slower, but nonetheless, they have to survive the free fall from space. Now, this guy was weak. Not only did he jump from about 40 kilometers rather than the 100 or so needed for the ballistic trajectory to get you from the Middle East to Australia, but he also had a parachute. Now, I've got to admit, I don't know that much about animal husbandry, but it does occur to me that the creationist proposal about the post-flood dispersal of critters does seem to ignore some rather critical factors about the survivability of animals. For instance, the volcanic eruption is more likely to fry your funnel webs rather than give them safe transit halfway around the world, or that an hour or so without oxygen will not do your koala bears much good.
See, dinosaurs on the ark, they're kind of big, aren't they? Well, the big ones were big, but the little ones were little.
Really?
And Noah was 600 years old when he went on that boat. I just bet he was smart enough to figure out you don't have to bring the biggest ones. Bring 2 babies.
Or similarly, I don't think that a baby kangaroo that has managed to survive being hit by an explosion that would fire it further than it could get by walking, and has managed to somehow hold its breath for the hour or so long trip, and somehow managed to survive being in a rather hostile vacuum of space. Free falling from the edge of space is going to give you a healthy kangaroo population in Australia. Now, I know kangaroos are fairly bouncy creatures, but I really don't think that rolling your knees when you land is the sort of thing that is going to make you survive the free fall from space. But the trustworthy encyclopedia isn't on that, for its article on Australia says, contrary to that, young Earth creation scientists assert that the entire subset of all of the Earth's species, kangaroos, wallabies, and other similar creatures, travelled together to Australia following the Great Flood. It's not known whether they communicated the idea amongst themselves or all went the same way by chance. Yeah, the wallabies and such like embarked on a 6,000-mile journey across a dead Earth. And while they were not able to thrive anywhere on the 6,000-mile journey, somehow managed to prosper happily in Australia when they ended up, and only in Australia. I guess maybe the Galapagos tortoises went with them and just communicated amongst themselves that they would swim the last 12,000 miles. Oh, it's nice to know that we've got Conservapedia to let us know what creation scientists are thinking.
Alright. Can I get the lights back on? Got a little bit left to do. So, that's Australia. It's even worse for people in North America. You know, all of our native species, you know, things like the, you know, bears, gigantic. Yeah.
It's just amazing.
I'm crazy?
I can't believe this stuff.
I think I'm going crazy. I hear something.
It's been playing the whole time.
It's not me.
I hear it.
It was during the presentation as well.
Oh, I guess I'm going crazy. Anyway, moving on. So it's even worse for the North American species, grizzly bears and the timber wolves and coyotes and buffalo. They have an even further journey to go. And not to mention, for the global flood, the entire Asian continent didn't notice. Nobody wrote this down, that there was a giant global flood. I mean, I guess I could have seen it, they're all sitting in their, their sunken palaces, looking like they're Atlanteans, just talking to each other, and then one of them, a bubble comes up, and it's like, wait, by Jove, I think we're flooding. Ah, you're crazy. Go back to making pottery, the way you've been doing it for the last 10,000 years or so. And that's pretty much it. I'm, as far as the presentation goes, not quite done. I've got questions from actual creationists. And I want to try to answer them. So, these are actual questions. Alright, I'm going to preface this. These are actual questions from creationists. These are direct quotations. I did alter the spelling a little bit because, they spelled things wrong. So, only some did. Rob?
You should pull it up on the screen.
Oh.
The pictures.
Oh, should I? Yeah. I guess it'd be easier to read. One sec.
Where did these questions come from?
It was a BuzzFeed article.
Okay. With incorrect spelling?
Yep.
Perfect.
We're gonna play a game of 20 questions.
Caribbean
Phrase.
Alright.
It's like strawberries and bananas.
And by the time I'm back here, it'll load up. And it has. Awesome. Let me try to hold there we go. Okay. So, 21 questions from creationists regarding the debate. Bill Nye, are you influencing the minds of children in a positive way?
The answer is yes.
Well, I'm not Bill Nye. I can't answer it. But he influenced my mind, and I think that's overall positive. So, moving on. Are you scared of a divine creator?
Terrifying.
No. No, I'm not. I'm not afraid of the boogeyman either. Is it completely illogical that the earth was created mature, i.e. trees created with rings, Adam created as adult? Yes, that is completely illogical. We covered this in the last Tuesdayism, which, is basically can be reduced down to its simplest form of complete nonsense. Not to mention it's scientifically invalid because you can't prove it or disprove it, so scientists say no, just no. So, yeah, completely illogical. Number 4. Does not the second law of thermodynamics disprove evolution?
Okay, that just pissed me.
He answered that in the debate.
He answered this in the debate. I think this was actually before the debate, to be fair. But no, it does not. Well, it would if there wasn't a gigantic flaming ball of gas continuously pumping energy into the earth every second. If only we had something like that. Oh wait, we do. It's called the sun. It's the big yellow floaty ball out there.
I see no sun.
It's not there very well.
Can't
It's not
prove it.
visible.
Can't prove it exists.
So, no, it doesn't. Hell, if anybody asks this question to you in the future, ask what the other 3.
That's what the zeroth is.
I can't remember. I don't know, I'm not a physicist.
That's what the third is. Because there isn't.
Let's see.
That's
The 0th one, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Anyway, how do you explain the sunset if there is no God? And a nice spelling on there, by the way. Anyway.
What?
Okay. Let's see, the sunlight let's see, oxygen let's see, the atmosphere refracts the sunlight
The
from
cell
the
phone,
sun.
therefore God.
No,
Is she serious?
I think she might be
I
serious.
don't know if serious or just.
She's an atheist in disguise, just trying to make
Yeah.
him look
I'm
bad.
not sure if serious
Let's
or
see.
stupid.
If the Big Bang Theory is true and taught as science along with evolution, why do the laws of thermodynamics debunk said theories? Do we just answer
The
this?
scientist that came up with the Big Bang Theory is a Catholic priest. So,
Yeah, you want
is
to.
it?
And and also something redshift, something expansion of the universe, something. I'm not an astrophysicist, so I can't answer it. So, no, and as far as evolution goes, we just talked about this.
Fucking dynamics. It has nothing.
Let's see. What about noetics? What about
I
them?
grew up in the church.
What are noetics?
I don't know. I looked them up on Wikipedia. I don't know what they are.
No, check Conservapedia.
I checked Conservapedia. There was nothing there. It's some kind of philosophical thing, and I think philosophy is silly. So, what about it?
Awesome.
Where do you derive objective meaning in life? I don't derive objective meaning in life. I have subjective meaning in life. So, I don't. So you can't ask. So it's basically saying, how many potatoes are in my bloodstream right now? Well, I don't have any potatoes in my bloodstream right now, thanks. Button to come in.
For a second there, you're gonna take off your shirt.
No, that's later in the talk.
Okay.
If God did not create everything, how did this first single-celled organism originate? By chance?
Yes.
Oh, chance.
Well, define
The big
chance.
boogeyman.
That
Chance
the
is
first
always the big
single-celled
boogeyman.
organism, that it wouldn't be a single cell at first. It would be just a long, self-replicating series of molecules, similar to mRNA molecules that we have now. That these are molecules that they code for themselves to make themselves. It's kind of neat. And get a few of those molecules going around. Slap a bilipid membrane around them, which are found in nature.
This is the best
Optional.
idea ever.
Got a cell. So
Oh,
yeah,
idea.
overly simplified, but close enough. I believe in the Big Bang Theory. God said it, and bang, it happened.
That's
Good
not
for
a
you.
question.
Good for you.
Good for you.
Why do evolutionists / secularists / humanists / non-God believing people reject the idea of there being a, and I'm spelling on there again, by the way, there being a creator God, but embrace the concept of intelligent design from aliens or other extraterrestrial sources? I think that's sources at least. It looks like scurries.
That's a nice straw man you got there.
Okay, I like how you don't use the word atheist, but whatever.
They don't want to think it exists.
Okay, who thinks we came from aliens?
It sounds just as crazy as
It's actually a running theory, right?
It is a hypothesis. You can't theorize on it. There's no evidence to support it. So we talked about what the theory word meant, Craig. We talked about this. So no, I don't believe it. Nobody in this room believes it, at least to my face. So yeah, where the hell are you finding these guys? I don't know. So and intelligent design. I could go on for hours about how we're not intelligently designed, but that's another talk for another day. If I wanted to do that, we'd be here all night.
Hours about thermodynamics.
There is no in between. The only one found has been Lucy, and there are only a few pieces of the hundreds necessary for an official proof.
What?
Well, all right, Chris.
There's these things in Washington D.C. called museums, unlike this building they have in Kentucky, and they actually have like fossils and shit.
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
weird.
Yeah.
But I could answer that question, but I'm really lazy, and as you've seen before, I don't like to answer questions that somebody else already has. So I found an episode of Futurama that answers it perfectly for me. So I hope this doesn't get copyright strikes if it's uploaded anywhere. So yeah, that happened. So I hope that answered that question well enough.
I don't understand.
Does metamorphosis help support evolution?
I'm not even sure what.
Well,
What?
kinda. It sounds like you're kind of messing up with the actual term. What is that? All right.
Metamorphosis is when the caterpillar becomes the butterfly.
Yeah, that's metamorphosis. What
Pokemon
I think this
metamorphosize.
is that somebody screwed up the word evolution when they were playing too much Pokemon and mixed the two definitions up. So my answer to you is stop playing Pokemon and get back to me on that. But metamorphosis is possible by evolutionary theory. Yo, Rob?
Could you be referring to the Franz Kafka novella, The Metamorphosis, which does not support evolution?
What?
In The Metamorphosis, Gregor Samsa turns into a big bug.
I think that's science fiction. Keyword
it is, but it's
being,
the metamorphosis.
I'm pretty sure the keyword being fiction there, but
But not ever.
I doubt it.
Great story.
Let's see. If evolution is a theory, like creationism or the Bible, why then is evolution taught as fact?
How old is this person?
Not old enough, apparently.
Mid-20s.
Okay.
Mental age or physical
Yeah,
age?
it's
'Cause
physical age.
No.
intellectual age? is
Mental age
probably-
and physical age? No. No is the answer. Okay. Creationism is not a theory. We talked about what a theory is. Let's see. Who here? Okay, class. Who remembers what a theory is?
Was it?
All right, Chris.
Well,
Wasn't it just a
scientific,
big old guess?
Lucas, you're wrong. Go stand in the corner.
Yeah.
Chris.
well, a scientific theory is something that is basically up until this point. That's how like we can understand like a certain like basis of science. So like it's like our legal system until proven otherwise. That's how scientific theories work. And the Bible has been proven, countless more times than you can probably come up with a number with as just being false. It's just made up.
Yeah.
I can make a Harry Potter book or something too.
Yeah. I actually kind of like this question because I like Bible theory, the Bible theory of the origins of the universe.
Bible code.
I don't know, but yeah, Bill Nye says that creationism and Bible aren't theories because they're not observable, they're not testable, can't prove it with an experiment, and they can't make predictions. So evolution is a theory, creationism and the Bible are not. The Bible's theory, though, I have no idea. This person. Because science, by definition, is a theory, not testable, observable, or repeatable, why do you object to creationism or intelligent design being taught in school?
Because it's not fucking science.
Because
It's not science.
We just went over this 3 times already.
wait a minute.
A
Because science
theory-
is by definition
A scientific theory is testable, observable, and repeatable. It has to become a theory.
Exactly.
You were just over this. Yes, Chris?
But by that same logic, I mean, we might use the stork theory along with, how sperm cells fertilize eggs.
Yeah. Also, we have to teach, astrology along with astronomy and alchemy instead of chemistry.
It's just like,
Teach the controversy, alchemy 2012. Wait. That's not right.
Full metal.
All right. Okay. I actually
Well,
really,
equivalent exchange.
really like this question because it seems like this person actually wants to learn something, even though her grammar is kind of, bad. What mechanism has science discovered that evidences an increase of genetic information seen in any genetic mutation or evolutionary process? I can answer this one. I like this one. All right. That when most people think of the word mutation, they think of either a sequence of DNA being altered or deleted.
X-Men.
Pretty much.
Yeah, X-Men.
That there's a third type of mutation that these creationists like to completely ignore, is the insertion mutation, where a sequence of DNA, whether a single codon, an entire protein sequence, or a full chromosome, is mistakenly added in twice. And if it's a single point mutation, like one base pair is added in, it will literally ruin your day in the worst way imaginable, and you probably wouldn't even get past the 2 or 3 cell stage of your life, or depending on who you ask about it. If you have a full protein sequence, though, that's when fun things can happen. That, for example, our hemoglobin molecules, we have 2, alpha and beta hemoglobin, that back in our early evolutionary history, there was only one copy of the gene to make one type of hemoglobin. I think hemoglobin alpha hemoglobin, whatever. That at some point in our history, though, that the protein sequence for hemoglobin got copied over twice by mistake. Well, that's no big deal. It doesn't hurt you. So we're just going to let it sit there and do nothing. Kind of like how hemoglobin alpha is a hard-working one, but he can't have a lot of time for fun. He's got to support the family. The copy of the hemoglobin is basically the lousy roommate who's just trying to find himself, just kind of floats around, doesn't do a whole lot, gets a mutation every now and then, you've all had roommates before. Show you how it goes. And then one day, though, he finds himself. He gets the right mutation, gets the right nucleotide changed just right, and he becomes hemoglobin beta, which is even better than hemoglobin alpha at doing its job. So, and that would be an increase in genetic information. And there's 3 different ways you can answer this question. That some people say, oh, you can't, increase information, you can only alter what's there. Well, that is sort of true, but then again, DNA can't code for an animal growing a tire and wheels, so...
Did you already talk about that line?
Yeah, they talked about this in the debate. And there's another way considering like kind of computer code, but you know, I don't want to get into that. So hope that answers the question. All right, got about 5 more. What purpose do you think you are here for if you do not believe in salvation? I don't know. I don't care. My purpose is to do whatever I want because science. I don't need salvation. I'm perfectly happy without it. I'm pretty sure most of you are too. 18. Why have we found only one Lucy when we have found more than one of everything else? We just answered this question. If you go to a museum or watch an episode of Futurama, God forbid you enlighten yourself.
He's trying to look like he's so fucking
See,
intelligent.
the other thing is that Lucy is the only specimen we have.
True.
Yeah.
He needs to get his ass to a museum real quick. Can you believe in the Big Bang without faith?
Yeah, it's quite
Yeah, you can use evidence.
It's not that hard.
I know, mind-blowing it is, that might be for this guy to, you know, believe in something with evidence, but no. Yeah, you can. Oh, this person looks nice and friendly. How can you look at the world and not believe someone created it, / thought of it? It's amazing. Yeah, of course it's amazing. Like, you know, having an appendix that, you know, decides to pop every once in a while and kill you, or, you know, all the death and disease out there. How your eye, the retina is put on backwards and the optic nerve penetrates it, giving you a blind spot. You know, having the body's sewage line going through the recreation center. The fact I need these sons of bitches. You know, of course it's perfectly designed.
Just absolutely perfect.
Maybe he's a civic engineer, you never know. So, no, it's less than amazing.
My roommate's a civil engineer. They're not that stupid.
Good thing. Relating to the Big Bang Theory, where did the exploding star come from? If you mean the singularity, I don't know. I'm not an astrophysicist. I don't know. Where did God come from? Where does the flying spaghetti monster come from? Where did God come from? I can answer that one. Ask that one for you. You can't answer, can you? Picture on the
Where did the
screen.
exploding star come from?
All right, this guy, he looks nice and intelligent, doesn't he?
No, I've never seen all these other people.
If we came from monkeys, then are there... Bye, I'm done.
Come on, just turn this off, bro. I can't look at this shit.
No.
That's the
Okay,
last one.
I gotta give it an answer. I gotta get off screen though, because I can't tell if you're legitimately serious or just being a dick, because you have the same dick smile I have when I'm being an asshole. So, we did not evolve from monkeys. We share the same common ancestor. They are our cousins, not our grandfathers.
My cousin was no monkey.
Well, your cousin wasn't a monkey. Yeah, I don't know about your family.
Okay, yeah, maybe she was.
Oh, Chris?
You know, presumably, probably maybe 80% of these people have smartphones with internet access. It's just one simple Google search of like of not, and then when you actually hit a link, don't go to like some sort of creationist website. Go to like
Wikipedia.
Yeah, you know, something.
God forbid they go on Wikipedia and get a little bit of enlightenment.
I mean,
but of course,
so fucking simple answers to just know.
well,
it's like,
remember, Chris, that to answer most of these questions, though, it requires critical thought, and we can't have that in an uninformed populace, can we?
So fucking stupid.
I don't know. So, yeah, Grace, you have your
Is
hand?
your presentation over? Because I have some Q&A questions for you. Like,
Yeah,
ask
pretty much
questions now,
over.
or
All we're probably gonna do is probably watch some bits of the debate, talk about that.
I have 2 questions. The first is my dad often talks about homosexual people and how they should die out because they can't reproduce. What's your opinion on that? What should I tell him?
That,
They keep resurfacing.
so it's not inherent, so homosexuality is an inherited trait.
Obviously, it's a mutation
That there was,
that doesn't get passed
all right,
on.
everyone settle down, That everyone, shh, settle down. That there was a recent paper published that said homosexuality is not a genetic trait per se, but no shit that it's not inherited. That some people think it's an epigenetic trait where it could be a way that your body was, that your genetic information was altered in the womb. I know one thing that has been observed is that subsequent male children, that the youngest child you are, the higher probability of you being gay, because the mother's body builds up a resistance to testosterone, so she would produce less of it.
So
you'd have more.
dad
So you
has
can-
5 younger brothers, but none of them are gay to my knowledge. But based
So-
on your theory, that there would be a chance.
Yeah,
higher
that your
chance.
that your dad that your youngest uncle would have the highest probability of being gay. So, and actually, fun fact about how about sexual preference? It's kind of off topic a little bit, but the people who are most mad against homosexuals, some people like to call them homophobics. I don't think it's fair. I think they're just being a dick. But the people who are most adamantly against anti-homosexual, they actually get turned on by homosexual porn more than somebody who's more accepting of gay culture, because some social scientists hypothesize that this is because that it's sort of a repression of their own urges, and that's how they use it as a release. It's sort of like a self-denial type thing. Like if you purposely, say you purposely resist eating something that you really want, but you get more pleasure out of it when you finally break to it. Chris?
With the recent Duck Dynasty guy, he the way he just said, just came off as like female or male homosexuality leads to bestiality. It just seems that he has some sort of first-hand experience of not only just male homosexuality, but then bestiality. Because if you look at his device that he created, I'm not pointing no fingers, but he did create a device that called animals and tricked them into thinking he wants to have sex with them. So it leaves a lot of open questions.
Yeah. Well, I think that's more of a social question, insofar than a biological one. But insofar as whether gay people should have rights or not, and or why not people who are into bestiality or pedophiles or whatever, what the question